What if the only person who truly saw the danger was a little girl with pigtails and a mop bucket? Ethan Carter never thought he'd ask himself that question, let alone owe his entire company his future, and maybe even his soul to someone who wasn't even tall enough to reach the conference table. That morning, he was on the verge of collapse. Everything he'd built over 3 years, HeartSync Technologies, his marriage, his promise to his children, was hanging by a single thread. The meeting with foreign investors was set. His translator was in the hospital. No one else could help. And then Lily walked in, a janitor's daughter, 7 years old, fluent in French, smarter than most adults Ethan had ever met, and braver than all of them combined. He thought she would save a conversation. He didn't know she would expose a trap. He didn't know she would stop him from losing everything. But what Lily uncovered next would leave everyone in the room speechless. Stay with us, because what happens after she opens that contract will shock you. How do you save your life's work when your only hope is a 7-year-old janitor's daughter? That's the question Ethan Carter couldn't stop asking himself as he stared blankly at the conference room wall, the presentation flickering uselessly on the screen behind him. He'd spent 3 years building HeartSync Technologies from nothing, risking every dollar he had, putting his house, his marriage, and his future on the line. And now it was all crashing down because his French translator was in the hospital with a burst appendix. Carolina, he barked into his phone, pacing the 12th floor corridor like a man on the edge. Tell me you found someone. Anyone. I've called 20 different agencies, came Samantha Blake's voice, trembling on the other end. No one's available on such short notice. And Ethan, they already landed. The investors are on their way here. Ethan let out a hollow laugh as he stepped into the stairwell for air. Perfect, just perfect. 2 French investors known for never giving second chances were coming to hear his pitch for a revolutionary low-cost cardiac monitor. If the deal didn't close today, HeartSync would be finished. He had no translator, no backup, no time. He felt his pulse racing, heart thudding so loud it almost drowned out the thoughts flooding in. Should I just walk away, cancel everything, call Rachel, tell her I failed, tell the kids they have to leave their home? He climbed the stairs aimlessly, one foot dragging behind the other like his soul weighed 1,000 pounds. By the time he reached the 15th floor, empty on a Saturday morning, his chest felt tight. And then, a sound, a soft, high-pitched voice singing in French. Frère Jacques, Frère Jacques. He froze. It couldn't be. He followed the echo step by step until he reached a small janitor's storage room with a cracked door. Inside, he saw a girl, tiny, no older than 7, humming and stacking cleaning supplies. 2 black pigtails bounced as she moved. Her voice was perfect. He pushed the door open gently. "Excuse me," he said, not wanting to scare her. She turned, startled but calm. "Yes, sir. Do you speak French?" "Yes. My mom taught me." Her voice wavered for a second. She was French. She passed away. Ethan blinked. "What's your name?" "Lily Morgan." "And your dad?" "He's upstairs. He's the janitor." Ethan stared at her like he'd seen a ghost. Could this child possibly be his lifeline? No. That was ridiculous, insane even, but he was out of options. "Lily," he asked carefully, "how well do you understand French? Could you translate business words?" She tilted her head. "Investment, contract, risk, profit. My mom used to work at a bank. She made me learn everything." Ethan knelt down eye level now. "I know this sounds crazy, but I need your help, right now. 2 very important men from France are coming, and if I can't speak to them, I'll lose everything." Lily frowned in thought for a moment, then nodded. "Okay, but only if my dad says yes." Within minutes, Ethan and Lily were in the elevator, rushing to find her father, David Morgan. When they stepped into the executive hallway, David was mopping earbuds in. "Dad," Lily ran to him, tugging his sleeve. "What are you doing up here?" David asked, pulling out one earbud. "You're supposed to stay near the closet. Mr. Carter needs help. He doesn't have a translator. He wants me to translate French." David raised an eyebrow. "Translate French for business. I know it's strange," Ethan jumped in. "But I'm desperate. Your daughter is incredibly sharp. She speaks fluent French, and she's my only chance." David's eyes narrowed. "She's just a kid, I know. But this deal, If I don't get it, everything ends today. David looked at Lily, who nodded solemnly. Mom would have helped him. She always said to help people when they're in trouble. After a pause that felt like a century, David exhaled. Fine, but I'm staying in the room the entire time. If she's uncomfortable, it ends. No exceptions. Ethan nodded, heart thudding. Agreed. They rushed back downstairs. Samantha Blake stared in disbelief when she saw the child walking confidently beside Ethan. Are you serious? She whispered. This is our translator. She's fluent. She's brilliant. And she's all we've got. Samantha raised her hands in surrender. Then let's get her ready. Fast. For the next 30 minutes, Ethan explained the product to Lily, how it worked, why it mattered, how it could save lives. She asked smart, clear questions. She even suggested a better way to explain one of the features. Ethan glanced at the clock. 5 minutes left. And then ding. The elevator. Two sharply dressed men stepped out, Louis Moreau, tall and silver-haired, and Julian Bernard, stockier, with calculating eyes. They looked around with mild disapproval, as if already judging the air quality. Bonjour, Monsieur Carter, Louis greeted coldly. Ethan tried his best. Bonjour. Bienvenue à Chicago. They raised an eyebrow. Julian leaned in. We were expecting a professional translator. Lily stepped forward before Ethan could speak. Bonjour, monsieur, she said brightly. Je suis Lily Morgan, votre interprète aujourd'hui. Their expressions shifted from skeptical to stunned. Mon Dieu, Louis whispered. Julian murmured, Cette petite fille parle français comme une native. Ethan swallowed, trying not to smile. What did they say? They said I speak like a native. Lily beamed. Julien crouched to her level. Et où avez-vous appris cela, mademoiselle? Ma mère était française. Elle m'a tout appris, Lily answered proudly. The meeting began. Ethan presented his device, Lily translating each sentence with poise. The Frenchman grew more engaged, leaning in, nodding. Then Julian asked a question in rapid French. Ethan didn't catch it. He wants to know your target market, Lily said. Public hospitals, Mexico, Colombia, Peru, Ecuador, Ethan answered. Lily translated flawlessly. Ethan noticed Samantha watching the child in awe. And just as things were going well, Louis placed a contract on the table. We've prepared our own terms, he said in French. Lily's brows pinched slightly as she translated. Ethan glanced at her. What is it? He asked quietly. She hesitated. Some of the words, they don't feel right. He leaned closer. What do you mean I'd like to talk to you in private? She whispered. Ethan's blood chilled. They excused themselves and Lily pulled him aside with David and Samantha. Mr. Carter, she said gravely, the contract says they'll only invest $1 million, but they'll get 50% control of your company. And if you don't pay back the money in 6 months, they get everything. Ethan stood frozen. Could this really be happening? He looked at her, this tiny girl with enormous eyes full of truth. Are you sure my mom taught me to read the fine print? Always. A war raged inside Ethan. Rage, fear, panic, but above all, disbelief. And then, clarity. He looked up. We go back in there, he said quietly, and I asked the questions this time. And you. What would you do if the only person who could save your company was a 7-year-old girl? Let us know in the comments, and if you felt the tension building, please give this story a heart and a like. And trust me, it only gets more intense from here. Ethan Carter returned to the conference room with a different look in his eyes. Moments earlier, he had walked out with hope. Now he was walking back in with purpose and suspicion. Lily walked beside him, her expression unusually serious for a 7-year-old. Behind them, Samantha Blake and David Morgan exchanged glances, each sensing something had shifted. Back inside, the two French investors, Louis Moreau and Julian Bernard, were still seated at the table, sipping their espressos calm as ever. But Ethan could see the tension behind their polished smiles. They were waiting for him to fold, and he nearly had. Ethan straightened his blazer. Lily stood on her tiptoes and whispered, Remember what I told you, Mr. Carter. Ask questions and watch their eyes. Ethan nodded slowly. He turned toward the men, picking up the contract they had placed on the table. Gentlemen, he said, his tone polite but firmer now. Before we go any further, I have a few questions about your terms. Louis leaned back in his chair, a smug smile twitching at his lips. Of course. We are happy to clarify anything. Lily translated quickly and both men nodded. Ethan pointed at a clause on page 3. According to this, if I can't repay the investment within 6 months, you acquire full ownership of HeartSync Technologies. That seems aggressive. Lily's voice was calm as she translated, but her eyes never left their faces. Julian responded in French, his tone measured. That is standard. A way to protect our investment. Lily turned to Ethan. He says it's just standard policy. To protect their money. Ethan didn't buy it. He locked eyes with Louis. Then why does the contract also say you're only investing $1 million when we agreed on 2? This time there was hesitation, just a flicker. Louis cleared his throat and Julian jumped in. $1 million is a starting phase. We prefer to release the second half after performance review. Lily hesitated a beat before translating. She added quietly, but the contract doesn't mention a second phase, Mr. Carter. Ethan's jaw tensed. He pushed further. If it's just a first phase, then why do you demand 50% control now? The room fell into silence. Julian smiled, but it was tight. We find control essential in guiding startups. And if we say no, Ethan asked. Louis's answer came quicker than expected. Then we walk away. Today, Lily translated but added one more thing under her breath. They said it's now or never. That's not how real investors talk. Ethan could feel his pulse rising, but it wasn't from fear anymore. It was anger, controlled, focused, and somewhere beneath that betrayal. He had almost signed away everything, and they knew it. He looked at Lily. Can you ask them something for me? Anything. Ask them what other companies they've invested in here, in the US. She turned to them and spoke in perfect French. Both men stiffened slightly. Julian answered first evasive, we have many ventures. Confidential, of course. Lily turned back. He says they can't name any because it's confidential. Ethan leaned forward. Really, investors who refused to name even one success story? Something was off. He could feel it in his bones. Ask them how long they've worked together, he said. Lily asked. Louis answered 10 years. She repeated the same question to Julian. Julian didn't blink. 15 years. Lily looked over slowly. They just gave 2 different answers. Ethan turned to Samantha. Start digging. Google their names. Now. Samantha nodded and slipped out with her phone. Ethan turned back to Lily. Ask them where their office in Paris is located. Rue de la Pompe, District 16, they replied. Within minutes, Samantha returned with her laptop open and face pale. She whispered in Ethan's ear, Ethan, there's no record of Dubois and Bernard investments anywhere. Not in Paris. Not in France, not even a website. Ethan's stomach dropped. What about them personally? She showed him the screen. Their real names are Roberto Mendoza and Carlos Vega. They've been flagged for investment fraud in Guatemala and Colombia. Same scheme, different victims. Ethan turned cold. It wasn't just about money anymore. These men were predators, and he had almost handed them the beating heart of his company. He stood tall and faced them. Gentlemen, we've reviewed your offer. And we decline, Lily translated. Julian stiffened. Big mistake, Mr. Carter. This opportunity won't come again. Lily glanced at Ethan. He says this is your last chance. Ethan didn't flinch. Lily, tell them we've done our research. Their company doesn't exist. Their names are fake. And we know who they really are. The men froze. Luis No Roberto stood abruptly, panic rising. This is a misunderstanding. Julian grabbed his briefcase. We'll leave now. Ethan stepped in front of them. Not so fast. David Morgan stood by the door, arms crossed. Nobody leaves until this is cleared up. Lily took a step forward. You tried to steal his dream. My mom always said if someone steals your hope, they steal your future. Roberto's voice cracked. We were desperate. We didn't mean harm. Lily looked up at Ethan. Mr. Carter, what are you going to do? Ethan stared at them, wrestling with a storm inside. Part of him wanted revenge, but another part remembered why he built HeartSync in the first place, not for greed, but to save lives. He sighed, turned to Lily. What do you think? She hesitated, then said, "My mom taught me forgiveness isn't weakness. But if they try it again, call the police." Ethan nodded slowly. "You get one chance. Leave now. And if I ever hear your names again, I'll make sure you spend years behind bars." They left quietly, heads down in shame. Ethan turned to Lily. The room was silent. Then he whispered, "You saved us all." To be continued? If you were Ethan, would you have reported them to the police or shown mercy like Lily? Let us know in the comments. And if this part moved, you please like and share this story so more people can experience it. The next part is coming soon with even more surprises. 6 months later, the ballroom of the Hilton Grand in downtown Chicago was a sea of lights-pressed suits and hushed anticipation. A massive banner stretched across the stage. Gala for Healing, launching heart-sync technologies to the world. Ethan Carter stood backstage adjusting his tie in the mirror, but his mind wasn't on the cameras or the reporters. It was on a little girl with 2 black pigtails sitting in the front row, next to her father wearing a pale blue dress and shiny patent shoes. Lily Morgan. She had changed everything. Tonight wasn't just a celebration of a company reborn, it was the recognition of a heart too big for its age, of a soul that had reminded everyone in the room what courage and kindness truly looked like. Ethan stepped out to the podium, the room instantly falling silent. "Good evening," he began, his voice carrying a blend of pride and emotion. "6 months ago, I stood on the edge of losing everything. My company was collapsing. My marriage was strained. And I nearly gave away 3 years of my life's work to criminals dressed in expensive suits." A murmur swept across the crowd, but someone stopped me. And that someone wasn't an investor or a lawyer or a CEO. He paused, letting the moment hang. That someone was a 7-year-old girl with a brilliant mind, a brave heart, and a voice that speaks louder than most grown men I know. Gasps, then applause. Many turned to look at the small figure in the front row. "Lily Morgan." Ethan said, "Please join me on stage." Lily's cheeks flushed. Her father leaned down, whispering something encouraging. Slowly, she stood up and walked toward the stage, small feet echoing across the wooden floor. The audience began to clap louder and louder until they rose to their feet. Ethan knelt as she approached. "Hey, Braveheart. Ready?" She nodded shyly. Taking the microphone with both hands, she looked out at the crowd. Hi, I'm Lily, and I didn't really do anything special. I just did what my mom taught me." "What did your mom teach you?" Lily Ethan prompted gently. "She said, when you see something wrong, you don't stay quiet. And when someone is in trouble, you help them, even if you're small." The room was still. Grown adults dabbed at their eyes with napkins. "And why did you help me?" Ethan asked, his voice softer now. "Because I knew you weren't a bad man. You just needed someone to see it first." The applause returned, this time thunderous. Even the harshest board members from the biotech sector were on their feet. But Ethan wasn't done. "Tonight," he said, turning back to the crowd, "we're not just celebrating our product launch. We're announcing the Lily Morgan Foundation, a nonprofit dedicated to bringing affordable medical equipment to underserved hospitals across Latin America." Lily's mouth fell open, and he added, turning to her, "You, Lily, will sit on the advisory board. You'll help us decide which hospitals need help most." "But I'm only 8, she whispered. Ethan smiled. "And you're already more qualified than most of us." The audience erupted in laughter and cheers. "And that's not all," Ethan continued. "We're also creating a scholarship fund in your name for kids like you with big hearts and big dreams who just need someone to believe in them." David Morgan stood now, clapping hard, pride bursting from every line of his face. Samantha Blake stepped on stage with a wrapped gift. "This is for you, Lily," she said. "It's a journal, for you to write down all your big ideas. We're going to need them." Lily took it slowly, hugging it to her chest. As the gala moved into its final moments, images of HeartSync's devices appeared on the screen behind them, already in use in hospitals in Peru, Mexico, Colombia. Dozens of children and elderly patients were smiling, monitored safely, thanks to the device Lily had helped protect. Ethan leaned close to her one last time. This impact, it's because of you." She looked up at him, eyes shining. "You kept your promise. You helped people. And so did you." The lights dimmed. A soft instrumental played in the background. But before the curtain could fall, Lily stepped forward again. One last thing she said to the audience. My mom told me something I never forgot. She said, small hearts can do big things if they're full of truth. The crowd roared. Later that night, back in the quiet of their small apartment, David kissed Lily on the forehead as she wrote her first journal entry. Today I learned that telling the truth can save lives. And sometimes the bravest thing to do is speak up. And that truly was how the smallest voice changed the biggest outcome. Now let us ask you this. Have you ever seen courage come from someone completely unexpected? And what would you do if a child's voice helped you see the truth when no adult could tell us in the comments? What do you think about this story? If you loved it, comment number 3. If it was just okay, comment number 2. And if it didn't land for you, we'd still love your honest feedback. Comment number 1. Also, where in the world are you watching from? Drop your country below. And don't forget to tap the heart, and share this story with someone who believes small voices can create big change.